Pokemon Presents happened today. Now, look, if I wanted to talk about everything in this show, I would have did a live reaction to the actual show. You know I do live reactions to almost all the shows that happen in gaming. But I don't do it for Pokemon Presents because everything here I know it's not going to appeal to me. Card game stuff, Pokemon Go stuff, even the little updates they did for Violet and stuff. That's not what's going to appeal to me. What I want to see here is the latest entry for the console experience, and I want to see potential new spin-offs for the console experience. And we got that here. So before I get into anything negative, because you know it's going to go there, but I'm not going to try to make that even a big thing. I want to talk about the positives first, though. I want to talk about the positive first. And the positives is this. Pokemon Champions. Look, you could say I am a Pokemon fan who feels underserved by the IP. I feel that the Pokemon Company is very, 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 very slow to adopting new things. And they're just slow in general. How long has it been since Detective Pikachu was the second most successful video game movie of all time? And they didn't follow it up with anything, and we're now heading towards Sonic 4, Mario 2, and Pokemon Company is still, what do you call that? Snorlaxing? Because they relaxing. That's the point. As a Pokemon fan, I wanted more movies. I love that movie. And when I reviewed it, I said as much. I was like, yo, that movie was great. Enjoyed it. Can't wait to see what they do next. I want spin-offs, da-da-da. Give us a dedicated, kid who's trying to become a trainer. Like, give us everything. There was rumors of a Netflix show. Then we got the Pokemon little show that's, getting some new episodes. They talked about that today, too. But anyway, the point is, they're just slow. And then when it comes to video games, Game Freak is just, at this point, atrocious. I don't know what other word to use. Apologies. But I got to use the words that fit into the puzzle piece, and that's the one. So understand, I want to talk about Champions because Champions, as a fan who feels underserved by the IP, where I want these cool game ideas to come out that they're right there, but they just don't do, or ideas that they used to do, but they don't do. It's like, where's the new stadium game at? Y'all used to do these Stadium, Coliseum, y'all went on, Battle, whatever they were called, the other ones, they made a lot of those games, but then they just stopped. And I get why they stopped, because it's not like they got better. They were just making them, and they needed to get better. Yeah, there's some added, this one got a story mode, this one got, and people was like, yo, we just want you to use the, online and let us do what they actually do. When Pokemon Go came out, Pokedex and all that, yeah, let me get these Pokemons. Let me take these Pokemon, put them in something, and battle them against my people. And it's like, oh, yeah, they did these little things. And then it's like, yeah, but they run like crap, or da-da-da, or they just fall off the face of the earth. Look, the fact of the matter is Pokemon is massive, is massively successful. But there are many like me who exist, who wish that the IP was doing more, because we genuinely have a love for the IP. We were there when it came out. We loved it. We would go to the theaters, watch the movies and all of that. Watch the cartoon, all of Ash Ketchum's, adventures and shenanigans and all that. Awesome moments. Him, the struggle to get his Charizard was iconic when that happened. But the series just stood where it stood, it felt like. And while many Pokemon fans will play the game and be like, that's blasphemy what you're saying. You got to play this one to see the mechanic, how this shit. Look, I understand that they're going to add new mechanics and Pokemon's going to become giant. They're going to become diamonds. They're going to, all that stuff. I understand that. Still doesn't change the fact that the games look like they were being built for a GameCube in 2025. It's like it's a GameCube game ported to a Switch. And understand what a Switch is compared to a GameCube. They're not in the same realm. So, yeah. I'm throwing as much shade as I can to the Pokemon visuals. But understand this. I love Pokemon visuals. I think Pokemon art direction is great. I'm a huge fan of it. I genuinely think Pokemon is one of the most beautiful anime art styles of all time. I stand by that. Some people feel Dragon Ball Z is their favorite. Some people might feel whatever. Everybody got their own flavor. Oh, I like the, Princess Mononoke style and all of that. Yeah, I get that. Studio Ghibli. All right, cool. Everybody got their own flavors. And I know I love that style too. That's why I love the way Breath of the Wild looks. But Pokemon is up there to me. I think Pokemon is a stunning IP. Everything from the character models, the way the trainers dress, it's just cool. It has a coolness to it. And the art style is there. But I'll get into that. Champions. What they showed, that trailer, CGI, looked amazing. They went throughout the years. I was there. That's how I played Pokemon Silver. I connected the adapter to my 64 and played on the big screen. See, because I was always with that Switch life before it was, normal. There was Super Game Boys and Game Boy players, and that's the way I would play my handheld games 90% of the time. So those old handheld games that for most were handheld experience, they were still console experience to me back then. So understand, Pokemon Silver I played on 64 and loved every second of that. Right? Went to see the movie with Entei, all of that. Got the gold card, all of that. Was watching the anime, straight, consistently all the time. I was locked in. Stadium came out, right with the Silver and the adapter on 64. That took my fandom to its peak. That was the center for me. Stadium 1 and then Stadium 2. And the mini games they had with the Pokemon running by, and you had to, all of that. Y'all probably played it now on Switch Online and stuff like that. They up there. But I love those games. And the graphics to those games, because a Game Boy is a Game Boy. So you respect the fact that, look, there's these open world Pokemon games. It's exactly what's happening in the cartoon, and it's in the palm of your hand. Fire. The graphics ain't going to be all that, but it's like Super Nintendo. We just came from Super Nintendo. So it's like that, It's mad nice. And this is a new Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance, whatever you was playing on at the time. And then you got Stadium, and you got to put the Pokemon that you was playing with on the TV and play with the craziest graphics known to man that you've ever seen Pokemon in. It was like, yo, this is incredible. And it was. The music, the way it was just everything, the feel of it, everything was just incredible. Incredible. And then we thought, that series, no way that series not just going to continue to grow. And I thought it would grow like a Mario, like a Zelda, because it felt like that. Like that was a giant event. And you would be like, it did, Red? And I'm like, you're right. The series did go on to grow and become bigger than Zelda, become bigger than all the stuff. But all these other IPs actually continue to grow with the medium of gaming. While Pokemon, all these new tools came out just to make that IP sing online, all of this stuff. And they've been so slow to adopt that. But now you got Champions. And Champions like, look, you could get your Pokemon from nagging, your console games. Put them in Pokemon Home. All of if they basically already adapted for, Champions. If they're capable, you could just play with them there. And they're gonna make all of them capable at some point because Champions lives and breathes on Nintendo Switch and mobile. Understand when I say Switch, I mean Nintendo Switch family of systems. You know what I mean? So Switch 1, Switch 2, mobile. This is a game like Fortnite, which I was just saying in the last live stream they have to do. Something where people don't got to even go through their hardware to play together and battle their Pokemon. Literally was just saying that in the last video, and here it is. It is that. It's not the MMO, but it's a giant piece of what you want in the MMO, which is what? To use your Pokemon and battle your friends. So now the fact that, again, like I said, everybody's following the Xbox footsteps. It's awesome that they are, and it's awesome that this game, and I hope that eventually it's also playable with a PC so that the game audience just gets bigger. But the fact that it's cross-play with Switch and mobile, which Nintendo, like I said, Nintendo, they just did Mario Kart 9 on mobile. You know what I mean? And they didn't do Mario Kart 9 on their Switch, on their home console. They stepped out of their walled-off garden. I've been singing this song for years, telling people this is what's going to happen right in front of your eyes. So while y'all clowning Xbox, y'all going to look real stupid when y'all got no problem with your favorites doing it. And you're seeing that now happen. And Sony with their stuff on PC, and now Nintendo with this game on mobile, right? There'll be some people who are going to be like, you know what, I'm not even playing this until I get a Switch 2. But until then, people who haven't gotten the Switch 2 because it's sounding so crazy, it's hard to get out of that. It's like, I'm not even going to play it on Switch 1. I'm going to just play it on mobile because the graphics on my whatever phone you got may be better than the current Switches. That game maybe looks better there. So you just play it there. And people even are going to be playing it on their phone just because. Even when they got Switch 2s, whatever, if they'll, I ain't even take my Switch with me, but real quick, I just want to do this battle real quick because there might be people playing. You might like, what, I ain't got my Switch. That's my preferred place to play my Switch. But shit, I got my phone right here, the game installed. Let's go. Let's battle right now. And That is the dream. The phone makes it. It's the Pokedex in real life. You could be playing Pokemon Go. Let's say get some Pokemon from that. You know those level up. You send them to home, then you send them to the damn game champions, and now you're using those Pokemon. Like that is the reality. That is the MMO, but like even more in real world time. And so I left this actual show like, please do everything you could to make the online to that game great, fun, easy to connect with people. Like if somebody outside in the street say, yo, I just was leveling up my Charizard. You hear like, word? I bet you your Charizard ain't got shit on mine. And it's like, what you mean? And now all of a sudden, y'all just instantly, you on the game. One tap, it gotta be like that, like one tap of a button. As simple as it was to connect with PictoChat. If you was there, you know. It gotta be like that, like instantly connect. And the same has that button that you press on the mobile phone. I'm giving you a phone-to-phone scenario. So I'm taking the most casual person not even gonna get a home console, a console device, handheld, home console hybrid. They're not buying the Switch. They playing on the handheld. But let's say I run into that situation, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, I got it on the Switch. That button should be right there on the Switch version too. Seamless from phone to Switch. Instant. It gotta be that Fortnite scenario. I was just playing Fortnite the other day. Literally 2 nights ago. And I was playing on PC because I was editing some videos, whatever. And I was like, I'm right here, might as well play. Because I hadn't updated the new season anyway. So I updated there and I just played. Right? And I was playing with someone, and she was basically, playing on her commute, on her phone. And when she got home, I'm going to switch, to my console. I'm going to switch to my TV, so I don't even know what console. I'm going to switch to my TV. I'm like, all right, cool. While they did that, I said, cool, I'm going to shut down my PC real quick. I'm going to switch to my Xbox. And that's what I did. We both switched, and right back to the party, right back continue. The last character that I switched my outfit to, that's the character that popped into the lobby. Same with her, you know what I mean? And then we switched to whatever character we wanted to use and continue pushing. You know what I'm saying? And that right there, and everybody else, it wasn't just me, it's just me and her was the ones who switched consoles. But the other people in our lobby to make up the squad of 4, like they were in there, in that lobby. We just jumped right back into that lobby, like seamlessly. And that's the great part of Fortnite that makes it such a social experience that you could leave and still be on Fortnite, still go on the shop, download some stuff. You don't got to be like, damn, I got to get home to my console to download that thing before it leaves the shop. You could just go on your phone. What are you talking about? Right there. Like, it's there. And that's what makes it so, it's like that game goes out of its way to make itself accessible and user-friendly. And it being available everywhere is why Microsoft was like, yeah, if we're going to make games that we want everyone to play, why wouldn't they be everywhere? Like a Halo, like a Forza, like mine as well. Games like, it's video games. Go, enjoy, And it's like, yeah, and then gamers, do the console war. And I got it at first, fine, get it out your system. I understood in 2017. But by 18, 19, 20, I was already sick to my stomach. Like, what are y'all, they doing this? 2025 is just like, now it's just, y'all just want to be punching down, beating a dead horse, but the horse ain't dead. The horse is a unicorn and it's flying over your head. You're missing the boat. Anyway, look. Pokemon Champions is that now. Home console, handheld, no matter what, anybody could play it. I personally feel, and I know, this is crazy. Crazy to say. But understand, this one piece of software is Switch 2 money for Nintendo. Like, that's how big this is going to be. But no, what I really wanted to say was I feel like this is going to potentially be bigger than Pokemon Go. And the thing that makes it bigger is like Pokemon Go is still going, but this can truly go forever because it's attached to the console. And as that game goes from, all right, yeah, it's on Switch 1, it's on mobile. But then when they go, okay, now it's getting its Switch 2 update. So, it's prettier now. Oh, the new phones got some of those updates. It's prettier now. So now the full game, it's prettier now. And then the next generation comes around. Now you on Nintendo Switch 3. I'm like, God forbid it's not that now. But yeah, Nintendo Switch 3, 4, 5, beyond, you know what I mean? And that game is the same game that we're getting, now, that was just announced. But it just continued to grow. Just like Fortnite, we saw it change completely from the animations it had, from wall running and jumping and bouncing off walls and climbing, hopping into window. None of that stuff was there. Even the way the character moved, animated, none of that was there in 2017. Even though the core of the game was there, and that's the thing. Pokemon's core game has always been great. So I can understand why people are like, look, right, we hear you, but we don't care because the graphics at the end of the day don't matter. I want a new Pokemon experience. I want new people, new leaders, new champions, and all these situations. You know what I mean? I want new versions of those. So I'm gonna get the new game, obviously. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not telling you not to get the game. I'm just sitting here saying the only IPs really competing with this IP is stuff the caliber of Grand Theft Auto, Minecraft, Fortnite, and all of those IPs visually are up there and continue to get better, bigger, and things like that. While Pokemon mainline entries should at least match Nintendo's own games, and they don't. They look generations behind, and that's not my thing. So I'm not telling nobody not to get the game. I'm just saying I don't like the way these games look. I'm personally not going to buy these games because, again, I really don't like the way these games look. And I'm not above, like getting a game that doesn't have the best graphics or anything like that. And it's like, yeah, but if it has a great art style that everything just looks like, yeah, you know what, it all fits perfectly, I'm good with that, then I'll be good. I love Pokemon art style. And I actually think ZA's art style is really good. But the problem with ZA is, and look, someone went into one of my posts and basically mentioned how in the past they, basically shitted on Pokemon Sun and Moon's graphics, and I defended the game at that time. Now understand, I wouldn't change that today. It was a 3DS game. Those games had a little online and stuff. They were doing things, and it was 3DS again, 3DS, and it went from 2D to 3D. So I was like, yeah, they're trying, and this is on again 3DS. So imagine when they keep pushing and keep trying, and eventually, when the hybrid console comes out, what the games are going to look like. But what happened was that the games basically look like Sun and Moon, blown up, and touched up a bit. And those are your current games on your home console. It's a hybrid home console, super capable platform, and their games don't look like they take advantage of it at all. Look, the art style is there, but the art style doesn't even go together because low poly, ugly textures here, it doesn't synchronize well. And what's sad to me is that I compare it to GameCube, but it's also laughable to do that because Metroid Prime 1 exists and Wind Waker exists. Now, Wind Waker HD on the Wii U is literally top 10 most beautiful video games for me personally. If this game, ZA, just got a cel-shaded texture, let's just call it like a texture pad that went over it and just made the cartoony look actually cartoony, not polygonal, and look like a cartoon, yeah, this game would honestly look completely stunning to me. Then you throw in the new mechanics and everything, and maybe, get a better frame rate and not make the game look so slow where everything looks like it's a chore to do. Yeah, I would be definitely excited about it, and I think it would be a far better looking game. Just adding a cel-shaded texture to it. Look, we just watched, the Xbox Developer Direct. We watched a Sony State of Play. We watched the Idea Xbox show, a bunch of indie games there. So, in this year alone, we've seen a lot of brand new games and games that we were seeing again that we probably saw last year, but we're seeing them again. They haven't come out yet. A lot of them. Nothing from indie to the most expensive game to the most beautiful games like your 33, Expedition 33 and stuff like that. Super stunning looking game, right? To Intergalactic and Fable. Just stunning looking games. From indie games to those. To your GTA 6s. Nothing, and even nothing in between, looked like current Pokemon on Nintendo's home console. The Pokemon that's going to sell more than almost everything we've seen in any of those shows I just named, almost guaranteed is going to outsell basically everything. Grand Theft Auto wasn't at those shows, so I know I just mentioned that. I'm not talking about Grand Theft Auto. I'm just saying. Everything else is pretty much getting smoked by Pokemon. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I want Pokemon to win. I want Pokemon to win, and I've always wanted them to win so that they can. All right, look, yo, y'all got a treasure trove of money. Y'all got no excuse to not hire the best people, make the best looking game. Pokemon Game Freak, who has the keys to, I mean, holy crap, like to the IP, a plethora of things that they could do, and they do a lot. Don't get it twisted, right? They're overseeing stuff with Pokemon Champions. They do a lot. I'm not trying to take away from them, but man, you would think that they would be like, yeah, all this money, yeah, now it's time to get a whole new building. Yeah, a bunch of whole new staff. And this is not something where it's like, oh no, but Nintendo don't do that because no, this is not about everybody being a skillful master. You're not providing to the series other than manpower, visual power, and you're going to have a job for life because this series is never going to stop. It never stopped. It's been going basically for most people listening to this, their entire lifetime. Damn near all of mine. So it ain't stopping no time soon. So yeah, we just need people to make these games look better, beautiful, and provide just content consistently. New Pokemon. So when they say things like, yeah, we're launching this new thing, like Champions, obviously they can say, oh, Pokemon are going to come later. And that's because, yeah, they're probably going to be nice and pretty, high quality to match that pretty graphic style that, Stadium games had. So it's going to take time. There's thousands of Pokemon. I get it. And that's okay, and I think everybody would get that. You could do that with every game. And hell, they can even do that with the territory. Say, all right, look, it's going to be mad small. You're going to be in this area. You're going to get these Pokemon. There's only going to be 50 actually available in the game. And then, like, let's say it launches early in the year, and then in the fall, we're going to give you 50 more expanded area. And then the game just builds. Yeah, I think people will be perfectly fine like that if the games look absolutely stunning, because they would understand, there's like 500 Pokemon. To make all of those look with that graphics is going to take a minute, you know what I mean? So, yeah, but if anybody can do it, if anybody had the funds to do it, it's them. It's not like this is somewhere else where you'd be like, oh, nah, you can understand the struggle. Nah, there's no reason why Digimon look like that and Pokemon looks like this. It doesn't make sense. And I'm just pitting those two against each other, because it's a battle as old as time, But honestly, like, that's what they did. They took basically Sun and Moon art style and just brought it up. And while some textures, they look better, it's not up to par with what they could produce on the Nintendo Switch. Building textures, floor textures, all of that stuff, clothing, everything, lighting, all of that should be way better, look better. And could, even if they just adopted a more cartoony art style is what I'm trying to say too, which would basically play into Pokemon's art style strength. And yet they don't. And that's the thing. With those handheld games, I felt like with the locked camera angles and everything, the art style kind of just felt more cohesive than it does in these games. Because in these games, what pops out more than the art direction and the art style, which again I do like, is the graphical failures. I can just say, like, the graphical inconsistencies. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what stands out the most. So yeah, super disappointed to me when it comes to ZA. But Champions has a lot of potential. But now my question for Champions is this. If I'm not playing ZA, if I'm not playing Go, is there going to be Pokemon there for me to grab and just battle and do my thing like Stadium games where you didn't need to get any other Pokemon game? I hope so. I hope that it's still a complete experience. I mean, because if you don't do that, then damn near everything I said kind of goes out the window, even though everything I say, oh, it's still there. Yeah, but I'm like, if the base software, there's nothing there without you having to spend money outside of it, then it kind of fails. You know what I'm saying? And I get that now I said money, I got to think, damn, monetizing this thing, how does it work? Well, if you're playing Pokemon games elsewhere, you spent, $60, $70 to get a Pokemon game on the Switch too. You spent money. You got the Pokemon. Those are yours, so you could bring them in. You got Pokemon and Pokemon Home for years, those are yours. You could bring them in. But if you're just getting this software, you got no tie to the IP, well, now you got to, buy some Pokemon, that's Pokeballs or something, like to catch more Pokemon. So, yeah, things might be for sale. Oh, you like your trainer? You think he look cool? You think she look cool, right? You think they look great? Well, guess what? It's going to cost you to make them look even better. And it's like, well, I get it because you're just enjoying that software. And I think that would go hand in hand with the Switch version. You know what I mean? I mean both. I'm looking at it as a mobile Switch release. This is new. This is new. Like I said, imagine if Nintendo, a throwaway line, like, oh, imagine if Nintendo, actually have the new Mario Kart also on mobile. So that it's kind of like Fortnite. You can play Mario Kart anywhere. This kind of make it feel like maybe that can actually be a possibility now. Not something that I'm yearning for, but I'm also not against it. Because if there's people who've been playing Mario Kart Tour on mobile phones and they got used to those controls and that's the way they like to experience Mario Kart. Now they're like, oh yeah, I got to get this thing to get that new Mario Kart. Damn, like let's say that was their first Mario Kart. They never bought a Nintendo console, anything. But they watch Mario the movie. They love that ending scene. They say, I want to experience that. Oh, Mario Kart is on mobile. Downloaded that, enjoyed that. They became huge fans. Now the next one, they got to go and buy, hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of basically product to experience it, and that can be a barrier. That could just be an unnecessary barrier when, if the game can be on both, I would say, why not? Right? What exactly is the mobile team going to be doing anyway? Like just enter and bring that experience, whatever it's called, Mario Kart Switch. Wow, because you can switch from mobile to your Switch. Nah, like whatever it's called, the new game we're going to see on April 2nd. If it's on both, I think that's a win for that game. And people might say, oh no, but then people don't got to buy the console in order to get Mario Kart. And it's like, yeah, people didn't have to buy a Switch to get Mario Kart a whole generation. They did still, though, because at the end of the day, people still going to be like, yeah, I can play Mario Kart on my phone. Cool. But I want to play Mario Kart with everyone else, family, friends. It's a split screen experience. It's one of the split screen experience that remains, that never disappeared since the era of GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and split screen Star Fox 64. It just remained consistently as that family gather around. That and Mario Party. Consistency. But like, that's why I say, like, that's a possibility. I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I'll tell you one thing, the Champions trailer, it worked. It worked, man. Seeing the Pokemon, the water and the flame come together and that whole epic ending, but seeing the link cables and stuff, I was like, oh man, it threw me back to Four Swords, threw me back to using the link cable to play Pokemon Silver, threw me back to just, such a fun time. I don't think it's more fun than now, but a fun time. Super, nostalgia in that ad. I really did enjoy that a lot. But I'm happy that Stadium is coming back. Because there's a lot of stuff coming back. Stadium's coming back. Golden Axe is coming back. Stuff like Crazy Taxi. There's a lot of good stuff happening in video games. I know Mario is about to come back after years of no new 3D entry. Shout out to Wonder, though, because it was a masterpiece. But yeah, Mario's about to come back. So, that's feeling good. Samus Aran, Metroid Prime, almost 20 years, is about to come back. Shout out to Dread. Not trying to take nothing away from the 2D entries. It's just, we've been waiting for these new 3D entries in games for a minute. Now, Pokemon Champions on the actual website, I want to say that those are actual screenshots on the main page. And from the looks of it, I'm like, it's not bad at all. It has a stadium look. Obviously, the arena, they can milk it, like milk the damn thing with different stadiums, places, arenas, all of that. They could go crazy with that, so I ain't worried about that. Like, if anything, I just want the game to grow. And like the way, I mentioned Fortnite, like all the mechanics changing, like literally the mechanics changed. That's what I would like to see with this game. Like, all right, now it's on Switch 1. Oh yeah, backwards compatible on Switch 2. It's going to be a download. It ain't even going to be something physical more than likely. So you're going to download that to your Switch 1, Switch 2, wherever you're playing, and knows where you download it. It's going to be the version for that version. It's there. It's on the Switch family of systems, right? But I hope that one day when there's, all right, we're going to do an update for it, it's like, yeah, now those same Pokemons that you have, maybe their attacks now look different. The mechanics change. There's more impact features and stuff like that. More reaction things. Those little things change. So it's like the game grows and it feels like, all right, we're in a new generation. For there's chapters, but some of those chapters you felt big leaps. Like, holy crap, that looks good. Like, that looks great. So that's basically what I'm saying for Pokemon. Like, Champions, like, do that with, and the games will exist around it. I just want this to be a good game. And I would like mini games too. I would like it to not just be battles. Because Pokemon Stadium, to me, in my memory, was also memorable for the mini games. Because when we got tired of battling, it's all right, let's go play these mini games. And spending 2 hours playing that. And then, all right, now let's go back to battling. Stuff like that. So I still want to see the mini games there. Mini games could work on phones. Listen, any mini game you can make with a touchscreen, you could just again switch his touchscreen, flip that thing over like a phone, vertical style, and now start swiping away and doing all kinds of stuff. Mini games. Utilize the Switch, utilize the mobile, utilize the fact that this is a game built for both, treated as such. Tilt controls, all of that. Like tilting the screen stuff, mini games like that. Yeah, do that, please. Like, I want them to go all out with Pokemon Champions because it feels like this could be, for me, the champion of all Pokemon games. So that is my thought on the Pokemon Presents. See, I don't think this was that negative. I just have my personal feelings about it. I'm sure many of you watched, and enjoyed everything about what they showed with Pokemon ZA. ZA, right? I feel like, I don't know why I always want to say XA, but I know it's ZA. But yeah, enjoy your Pokemon experience. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't worry about don't let me ruin your hype for the games, because while I'm not hyped for ZA, I'm hyped for Champions, and I wouldn't want you poo-pooing on my Champions and ruining my hopes and dreams of it being something special and be like, yo, that shit is gonna be some basic thing, and it's like, well, it could grow into something great. You never know. Like, some people might say, oh, Fortnite started out as a basic thing, and I'm like, look what it is now. It's wild. It's wild. So yeah, let's move on now from Pokemon